Hey everyone, I am Melody Ann. I am a storyteller and a content creator, and this is Stories That Work. Every other Monday morning, I will do a live show right here, and we're going to be talking about storytelling. We're going to be talking about content creation to help you create better content for your audience. Sometimes I will show, and sometimes I will tell. And today I'm going to show. And so I'm going to be talking about a photographer, John Benjamin, and his website and the stories that he has on his website. And I guess the first question is, why have words on a photographer's website? Don't the images speak for themselves? You know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So what is it that images don't tell? Like, what part of the story do images not tell, right? And actually, I want to share my screen with you so you can see some of these images because they are stunningly gorgeous. Let's see. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so now you can see some of these images. But what do these beautiful images not tell you about John Benjamin? Well, they don't tell you what it's like to work with him. They don't tell you what it's like to have him in your organization, at your event, on the set where you're filming. It doesn't tell you whether he's polite to your key speaker, your keynote speaker, or whether he's going to ruffle feathers. It doesn't tell you what equipment he might bring or what equipment he has. It doesn't tell you how much time he might need. There are lots of things these images don't actually tell you about working with John Benjamin. It does tell you, hey, John is an amazing photographer, and that's great. And they do speak to the quality of the work, but they don't answer all of the questions. So what is it like to work with John Benjamin? So in order to answer that question for organizers and marketers and organizations who might bring him in, he has used story. And so when I was talking to John about this, we decided that, what questions do we want to answer? What do we want to say? And then we created something called feature projects. And right here, you can see it says featured projects. And if I click on that, there are a number of projects that you can look at. And I just want to go through a couple of them to give you a sense of like what, the kinds of stories, if you were a photographer, you might tell. And if you're not a photographer and you have a website, let these still inspire you and the kinds of things you can say on your website to help people understand what it's like to work with you. So let's look at the City of Richmond. First off, City of Richmond, aerial. So what does that tell you? He does aerial photography. Now you know he does aerial photography. And then he says, this job was huge with almost 2 hours in the air to accomplish everything. The start of the day was unclear due to the fog. My pilot, a highly experienced veteran who flies privately out of YVR Terminal B, was not too happy. I had got him out of bed for our early flight, then had to postpone it. He retreated to the hangar in a huff while I had a good breakfast and waited out his mood and the fog. The wait was worth it. As the fog lifted, crisp blue skies emerged for the full 2 hours of flying that I needed. I used 3 camera systems that day, valued at over 100,000, shot digital, Nikon digital, Hasselblad medium format digital, and video supported by image stabilizing gyroscopes. While the day got off to a grumpy and foggy start, my pilot ended up being the perfect choice. Things went extremely well, and we captured exactly what the client needed. So we have the images, we have John's story, and over here, we actually have a testimonial as well. So I think with the images and the story and the testimonial, you get a complete picture. And what does the story tell you? The story tells you that John will not just go up in the air on a foggy day and do his best. He'll wait for clear skies. He works well with people. He's calm. He didn't get ruffled when it didn't work out. He went and had a breakfast, waited for the fog to clear. He didn't give up. There are all these little bits and pieces that you can kind of lift from the story that aren't actually stated in the story. And that is what's one of the beautiful things about stories. You can tell people things without saying it's like this or it's like that. Let's look at another one. U.S. Pears Culinary Competition. And here are some beautiful images. There's obviously a culinary competition, cooks who are competing. And here are some images and then the story. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll just read a little bit. Before I started my photography business, I was fresh out of art school making films and working in kitchens to support myself. So years later, when the USA Pairs Bureau came calling for a photographer for the Canada-wide culinary competition, they had no idea how perfect a fit I would be. So right there, he's setting up. He's saying, I take my past experiences, I bring them forward into my projects. And then he goes on to say that he turned a one-time thing into a 5-year working relationship, in how much he enjoys it. And so I'll let you read it for yourself. But this story talks about how he brings his past experiences into his work and how he does that well. And I love the testimonial as well. And I'm just going to yeah, okay. So he said the testimonial, his portfolio was certainly impressive, and he happened to mention he had former culinary training. Yet I knew I was still asking a lot from a photographer. The day of the event arrived, and John adeptly moved about the space, always shooting where the action was without getting in the way. When I received the photos, I couldn't believe my eyes. So if you think about what John's talking about, is pulling from past experiences to create something beautiful for the client talking about John being on a live set and not getting in the way while still capturing impressive photographs. So these are in-action shots happening while people are cooking. So he's getting really in close without getting in their way. So this really speaks to what it would be like to work with John Benjamin. Let's do one more. So I know that this particular US Pairs culinary competition led to the US Pairs Orchard. And then he says, US Pairs Orchard, 30-foot tripod. Oh, 30-foot tripod. That's curious. And then he has the images. Of course, they always speak for themselves. And then his story says, one of a handful of dream jobs over my career. After a few years of shooting their culinary competitions across Canada and Portland, they offered this beauty to me, and I snapped it up instantly. It hit all the perfect notes in my life: travel, Oregon, summer, orchards, adventure, exploration, independence, 30-foot tripod, beauty shots, and a growing client relationship. All of those words have these images around them that if you're looking for a photographer and you want them to bring beauty to a region or to an area, you will see that and you'll be like, okay, he can shoot, my geographical area. The goal: show off the beauty and majesty of various Oregon pear growing regions. And then he talks a little bit about the method to his madness. And this is a little story that he's telling. I would arrive in each town early in the morning and start exploring the region. I would hike around, knock on doors to seek permission to shoot on their property, talk to everyone to get the locals' knowledge to help me out. By late afternoon, I would have a plan for a sunset and sunrise shoot location. Then, early the next day, after my sunrise shoot, I would drive to the next town and start all over. So what is this telling you about John that the images don't tell you? How did he get these images? Well, he worked for them. He spoke to people. He got permission. He was independent. He could work independently and he could be respectful and yet, integrate into the region in a way that he really tapped into the locals, their local knowledge to get the right shots. And so he writes beautifully about his experience, and he adds his 30-foot tripod. He just says it at the top, but it gets you, you said like 30-foot tripod, and you can see that he's taking photographs from up high coming down. And so he hasn't needed to rent an airplane or use an expensive drone to get this. So it gives you a sense of what it's like to work with him. And so those are 3 examples, and I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Stop share. There we go. And so those are 3 examples, and we've only talked about those 3, and we've only talked about story. And I could easily do a video similar to this on how to take this content and use this content to create content for social media, or we could have talked about search engine optimization and how that worked. And so we could have looked at the key phrases and how that fits into search engines and search engine findings. So there's a lot in a website. There's a lot more going on than just the stories. There's other stuff as well. And when you create your website and you're creating the stories for the website, you want to create opportunities to share those stories in other ways, such as search engine optimization, or such as, I wanted to say, social media, right? So go explore his website and enjoy his incredibly gorgeous photographs. And interesting, like since John and I worked on this website, now that he knows what he's looking for and how that works, he's actually been adding stories himself, which I think is beautiful. I love it when people kind of, okay, now I know what I'm doing and I can add to this and I can build on my portfolio, or I can build on my website. I love it when people can walk away from a project knowing like how to create more content, how to dip into that well to help it serve them and their audience as well. Because essentially, when you're creating stories and you're creating content, you're doing it for your audience. You're doing it to help them understand you, understand your business, understand what it's like to work with you. So why would you have words on a photographer's website? It's to show what it's like behind the scenes to work with that photographer. Yeah. So, story versus fact. What are you going to believe? If John had said, hi, I'm John, I'm a photographer and I'm trustworthy, and I approve of this message. I mean, it doesn't really sound good. But versus a story told by you or a client, or with John, sometimes it's a story plus a testimonial in the images, and you get that whole view. Then you know that he's trustworthy or works seamlessly or whatever it is you want to tell. So for yourself, what do potential clients need to know about working with you? And how can you tell stories? How can you create content, create stories that show that, rather than just saying, I value punctuality. How can you show that? So you can show that you are the right person, that you can show that it's your right business, that you can show your products and services are the right ones for your ideal client. How can you tell stories that allow your potential clients to get to know you? I think I'll leave it at that this week. I am Melody Ann. My business is Nutritious Truth, and I help businesses like yours tell stories that matter. And if you'd like to help creating stories that help you connect, get in touch. And I hope this has been helpful. If it has, please share it. I would also love comments. And I will see you in 2 weeks for another episode of Stories That